what the fuck happened to Durin, man? Why do they just keep fucking randomizing his numbers every beta cycle? Like, what's going on, man? He'll change them once more before live, yeah. It's ultra buff for season, right? Oh, banger message. Holy shit. You're so right. Holy fuck. Oh well. All right, chat. Let's actually look at the numbers properly. Look at the changes. So, track updates V3 to V4. The burst damage went up by like 20%-ish. The burst ticks went down by like 10%-ish. But they also reworked his fucking passive again. I feel like they can't decide what they want his passive to do. They're struggling. Okay, so the new passive says, after unleashing an elemental burst, Durin gains the primordial fusion of forms effect for 20 seconds. Durin gain 10 stacks of primordial fusion. When a periodic attack from Dragon of White Flame or Dragon of Dark Decay deals damage, 1 stack will be consumed to increase the damage dealt by 3% of the original damage for every 100 attack, up to 75%. So it used to be that each hit was increased by 1% per 100 attack. Now it's only the first 10 hits increased by 3% per 100 attack. So if you get 20 hits, this passive is now doing basically 50% more. But they nerfed the actual number itself. Let's take a look at how that affects him in... For now, let's look at the Varesa team. So in this team, it's actually a buff. A buff by about a little bit over 3k DPS. That's nice. That's nice. I got 1.5. For personal or team DPS? Team-wide, I have 2.5 here. But this is a team that has 2,500 attack. Right, the buff gets bigger the more attack you have. Oh, actually, no. I'm getting 10 hits plus the 3 initial hits. You probably don't have that, right? Yeah, the initial hit is an increase. My bad. Okay, yeah. So it's only a 1k DPS upgrade then. I mean, it's still, it's above 0.8%. Huge. Insane. You check on-field Durin. To be fair, actually, on-field Durin now probably wants to use burst when he swaps in, right? So he'll get the Bennett buff for most of the hits, right? Can you explain what changed? He does basically the same amount of damage, but basically he stole damage from his late hits and gave it to the early hits instead. Yeah, also people are saying that Mona got a nerf. Jeez, right? What? What? Yeah, wait. Let's check the Chinese. It's also gone in... Oh, why was it comparing it to live? What the hell? Okay, so buff went from 10 to 5. That's it, right? And it's not here. It's a nerf to the least important part of her kit. Yeah, this is basically not a nerf. Like, it's there, but it's not. How much did the dark form for Durin get nerfed? Like, in terms of just the motion value? That's a bigger nerf. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's not gonna be a big nerf overall. It's just the percentage change here is bigger because this hits less often. So the like percentage increase from the new passive will be bigger, right? Okay, wait. When you think about carry Durin, I guess the on-field Durin, if you have to spend field time using his burst, it means you get to do less charge attack. So this might actually be a change that takes his carry teams a little bit away from on-field Durin, which is a good thing, right? Right? It's a really good thing. If you get his burst initial hits under buff. No, the burst don't get the buff. The burst initial hit doesn't get the buff. Let's look at Durin, Mona. Yeah, because if you use the burst before you swap to him instead of after, you're effectively accepting that like the first 4-ish all-field hits of the burst aren't buffed. And that's about half of the hits that are getting buffed by the new passive. So Bennett Q, then Durin Q? Yeah, basically. But first, let's take a look at off-field Durin, I think. What do we look at? Chilone and Albedo? Probably. My goat. How does that work with the Mona uptime? Well, Mona uptime is 13 seconds. Dark mode Durin gets 1 hit every 1.25 seconds. So you have 10 hits under Mona Burst. So basically, the hits that are getting buffed by Mona Burst are all the buffed hits. If you do, like, Durin EQ into Mona Q directly, right? You'll miss the first one, and that's it. Maybe it's still better to Mona first. Like, Mona Q, Durin EQ, Mona normals. Because that way, you get to buff your first hit, and your first hit will be a vape. Actually, will your first hit be a vape? If you EQ on Mona, it will be, yeah. Okay. I'm not talking about the Bennett stuff right now, right? We're talking about off-field Durin. Let's take a look at this team. Also, TTDS is now way better, right? That's another thing that is kind of nice. TTDS is getting massively buff on Durin, or on 4 Durin in his teams, because you are now giving the attack buff to pretty much all the hits that matter, instead of only half of them. So we'll do TTDS, Mona, on TOM, on Noblesse, Shilonen. This one might be a problem, actually. Maybe Shilonen is a fraud here, because it'll be hard to get your... Actually, will it? Maybe it won't be. Because you can just start your first setup with Durin EN1, right? right? Before you swap to Mona. Yeah, that's fine, actually. There's no problem with that. Yeah, let's do that. So, what sword would we want in this team? Yeah, so this is one of the teams that's kind of crying because of dog shit weapon options, right? I guess we go Wolf Fang. We also have dog shit set bonus options. Dude, what the fuck do you do? I don't want to do two-piece. I don't want to. Yeah, it could be Noblesse, Durin, TOM, Mona, but the thing is, that's not even good. Oh, also, Noblesse is now a bit better on Durin, because it used to be that Noblesse would buff only the first 12 seconds of his uptime if you put him on Noblesse. It's still the case, but now the first 12 seconds of his uptime are where most of his damage is. Just use Gilded, true. Okay, hear me out. What if we go Petra Durin? Okay, no, that's going. Theory crafting has gone too far. Theory crafting has gone too far. It really sucks that, like, having a burst focus damage dealer that doesn't have a signature set and that doesn't want to build ER is just so cooked. Put Furina instead of a Geo character. That doesn't help because this isn't an on-field Durin, so he can't go Maréchal Say even with Furina. No shot, two-piece is better than Gilded. Dark Durin gets 70 reaction damage. Mona's C1 gives him 15. Mona's passive gives him 30. His EM multiplier is equivalent to what it would be if he had 2000 EM. You think Gilded is going to do anything? Use Petra. The thing is, Petra gives 35 pyro damage if you proc it. You know what else gives 35 damage to his damage? Two-piece Noblesse, two-piece Crimson Wave. Thundering Fury, bro. Imagine if this passive proc when you cast skill instead of when you cast burst. and then his best set was TF. Oh, that would have been funny. Was it TLDR on V4 Durin? They went up to all of their interns and asked them, okay, if you could rework Durin's passive, what would you do? All right, they gathered all of the ideas, they rolled the dice, and they picked an idea like with that. And once they had picked the idea, they rebalanced his burst numbers so that his overall performance would be effectively the same. That's what they did on the last beta version, and that's what they did now. What's the point even? I mean, honestly, I don't dislike this change. I think this passive is cooler than the last one. Is Durin good for Lyney? He should be. I haven't looked at too many Lyney things, but Durin is a very good generalist, right? He's not like Shiloden, who's like a generalist that's like always okay. He's a generalist that's like at worst okay. Like, he fulfills a role similar to Shiloden with Lyney, but he also fulfills an actual non-generalist role with like Varesa or shit like that, right? But like, he's Shiloden in his worst case scenario. You can think about it that way. You Hex artifacts. Surely this one's real, right? Increase burst damage by 20%. After casting burst, active party members will gain 10 damage bonus. If Hexarray Resonance is active party members will gain an additional 30% damage bonus. Yeah, surely that's real. Surely that's real. How many leaked Hex sets have we had so far? Guys, it's my turn tomorrow. True. New Hex set. When Zajef is live, damage increased by 1000%. True. You go attack or power damage goblin in this team? I'm not sure yet. Especially with the new buffs, Durin cares more about getting to 2500 attack, but attack past that won't be that great. But then again, this is a team that stacks a lot of damage percent, so attack goblet might be better even if you go past that. Is Durin worth getting just for Mualani if you don't have Mavuika? That's a good question. I can take a look at some Mualani teams today. Some other Mualani Mona teams other than the ones that use Durin and Mavuika. Because I feel like Mavuika doesn't do that much for the team, right? Like, sure, you can spend a little bit of field time on her, but if you do, you're either doing unbuffed field time on Mavuika or you're losing Mualani buff uptime. Both of which are like, you know, we stopped talking about Mualani already. Mualani's probably the biggest winner from next patch, so I feel like we can't. Is there a chance you'll do some Durin Varesa calcs? I already have. I did it very quickly because I just updated the stuff I'd done previously, but Durin looks very good for Varesa. Durin looks to be competitive with like optimized Mavuika stuff, so for most people he'll be better, and it also concentrates the damage into Varesa more than the Mavuika version, which means that for higher investment it'll be better even if you're doing good Mavuika combos. Not bad, not fine. How is he with Arlecchino? Meh. Durin's not that good with pyro carries because it's kind of hard to, like, if you're playing with a pyro carry with Durin, you have to choose one of a few options, right? But because you only have 4 team slots, right? You have Durin, you have your pyro carry. If it's a reaction carry, you need application that's fast enough to sustain Durin app and the pyro carry app, but you also want Electro so that your Durin shreds pyro. Or you play Dark Durin, but Dark Durin in this team, well, it's gonna be hard to get shred. You can do VV8 with like Sucrose, Xingqiu, but it's a little sus. And if your pyro carry has fast app, even Xingqiu won't be enough to keep up with pyro carry plus Durin, right? It's kind of like playing Hu Tao Xiangling. When you do that, you don't want solo Hydro Xingqiu, you want double Hydro. That's like the first option for pyro carries, but the problem with something like this is you have no attack buffs, right? And like, other than Hu Tao, pyro carries, they're kind of pathetic without attack buffs generally, or they're balanced around Bennett's existence, so these teams are kind of whatever. And Hu Tao is also kind of whatever, period, so having teams that focus more on her personal damage damage is like meh. So that's your first option for Durin with a pyro carry. Your second option is to give up on the reactions, right? And you can go something like Chevars, and then you need an off-field Electro. But again, you have the same problem where you don't have Bennett or Eon Son. Now, because of the official buffs, this isn't that bad, right? This is what you do for Arlecchino. This is what you do for Klee. But it's still not amazing. Like, it's okay. Fine. How much of an attack buff is a 45% from official compared to Bennett's attack buff? It's a lot less. 5-star characters on 4-star weapons almost never, or pretty much always have their attack hover between 8 and 900. On 5-star weapons can be around 1,000, maybe a little bit more for their base attack. 45% of that is going to be basically 350 to somewhere between 350 and 500 attack. Bennett's attack buff is 1,050 on Sapwood and 1,200 on Aquila. So 2 to 3 times bigger. Who can get reliable vapes with official Durin so on a team? Pretty much no one. Like, Arlecchino is gonna get half reliable vapes because her pyro up isn't that fast. Forbidden Arlecchino N2 weight. No, you don't do that. Yeah, Arlecchino isn't a character that benefits that much from the vapes anyways. So like, why is Singso on the team instead of Chevars at that point, right? Durin doesn't benefit that much from the vape unless he's on the dark mode, and he wouldn't be on dark mode in that team. You don't have shred. You want white mode. DPS to 68k. Personal DPS. I forgot the 80 EM from Mona's C2. My bad. I was looking at Mona's 4. 71k personal DPS on. Let's look at attack goblet as well. Slightly better. Also, I realized one of the unbuffed hits will still have the Ascension 4. How is it if we lose 2 unbuffed hits, we half uptime the TDDS, but we go 18 seconds? It's basically the same. Okay. Wait, also, what about 2-piece attack instead of 2-piece pyro? That's also slightly better. Interesting. How much attack are we at without TDDS? We're still capping here. Because I'm wondering if it's worth going a different weapon on Mona. It could be if you have Mona C6, right? Let's look at Albedo damage now. Shred is 20% more because of Geo Resonance. Brings Albedo personal DPS at 31k. Yeah, this team is shaping up to be pretty good. Oh, it's not bad. Then we can look at Shilonen. Yeah. Okay. And finally, we have Mona. Mona personal damage around 9k. Bring the team total 120k at C4 Mona. This is assuming rotations that don't vape a Mona charge attack. If you have C6 Mona, you probably can do a rotation that vapes Mona charge attack, right? If you Mona burst into Durin EQ into Mona charge attack, the Mona charge attack will vape. You lose 1 vape on Durin to get a forward vape Mona charge attack. Mona EQ all vape on Durin. If I look at Mona Q, 1 vape TA. In this team, so without Mona C6, it's worse to do this. With Mona C6. On TDDS, it's still slightly worse, but at this point, TDDS is probably not as good as like Fab or just a damage weapon. How does this compare to the old one? It seems like it got a buff. It seems a bit stronger now, but it might just be because I optimized the rotation. I'm not sure. Is this pyro or attack goblet? This one is attack goblet, although I didn't check pyro goblet attack 2-piece yet because you still cap out this thing if you do that. Yeah, that's actually better. Furina. We can take a look at Furina, yeah. Okay, so with Furina, it's about 10k behind Albedo because this team can't capitalize on Maréchaussée. If you could capitalize on Maréchaussée instead of 18% attack and 20% damage, we'd have 72 CV. It still wouldn't be better than Albedo. Albedo is just him. He kind of is, yeah. In these teams, he's really good. Okay, we can take a look at on-field now. I don't know what the rotations would be for on-field, though. Like, it's probably worth starting your field time with burst now, right? If we do Durin, Bennett, Mona, Furina, right? We have Durin on Maréchaussée, which brings his personal DPS at 107 with Mona C4. On the old stuff, we're at 102k. No, we're 116k. So it would be a nerf. But I might have been too optimistic on hit assumptions here, right? That's 6, 5. Okay, that's 3, 5, so 8. Yeah, I was assuming 16 hit, not 14, which is probably not real. Yeah. Okay, so it's probably like a slight buff then. I mean, this is still really good, you know? We have a lot less damage coming from the normal attacks now, right? The normal attacks are only like 25k. So it's not the end of the world if you just don't do them.
Deuce on the loose!
Yeah!
Deuce on the loose!
Deuce on the loose!